Today I want to talk about Christians and social media. Now, I've spoken about this before, but I want to come back at it again. I think it's an important topic. Did you know that 65% of Americans have social media in some form or another? And the average American has five social media accounts, and they spend an average of 2 hours per day on social media. I think that makes it a significant aspect of our society today. And yet I see ministers, I've heard them in their churches, I've actually seen them on TV, and I kid you not, on YouTube and Facebook saying social media is bad. They're using social media to get out their message. I'll come back to that. Listen, there are ministers that were opposed to radio when it first came out. Not as much, but TV definitely. Movie theaters were terrible. When I was a boy, not allowed to go to a movie theater for anything. And today, these same ministers that want us back in the 1950s in a lot of respects, they forget that back in the 1950s, even before that, there were ministers calling telephone evil when it first came out. 1950s, they had Elvis Presley. They all hated that. I don't know why 1950s is a good model, but it seems like that's what a lot of the ministers like. Probably because the ones older than me still remember it. And with fondness, I guess. Of course, to me, that's somewhat like the Amish. They're stuck in the 1500s. They can use steel certain ways, but not in other ways. And I don't know. Jesus didn't live in the 1500s, and Jesus didn't live in the 1950s. I mean, God's alive yesterday, today, and forever, but I mean here on earth. If you're going to take a religious stance on this stuff, why don't you go back to 30 AD? I'm just saying that it doesn't make sense. Many ministers that do try and use social media don't use it very well. A lot of churches or ministers have a Facebook account, and all it is a bulletin board. They just announce stuff. Listen, social media is a two-way street. It's communication. If you aren't communicating to people and allowing them to communicate to you, you're not using social media very well. A lot of my personal ministry is done over the internet, whether it be messages, whether it be just watching what people do in their lives on Facebook, letting people know where I'm at and what I'm doing. I use the telephone for counseling for people that are a long ways away. Sometimes I use Messenger there too. These YouTube sermons, I use them all the time. Too many ministers, they use Facebook or YouTube or whatever as if it's a bulletin board or a pulpit. I'm trying to communicate two ways. I encourage you to leave me a note with this video. I read them, I respond. Not many people do it, but I would encourage it. I do get a lot of feedback on Facebook. Great, feedback there. Email, fine, feedback there. Phone, feedback there. Hey, that's all great. But it's even crazier is a lot of church websites are nothing but bulletin boards. It's like, we don't have to pass out a bulletin at church anymore. We save the money on paper because we got a website. We can post it all there. Well, if only 65% have social media, that's 35% that don't, and probably 10 or 20% that don't even have internet access, and you're excluding them? I don't think that's right either. Going back to church websites, many of them are 10 years out of date with technology. I don't mind. My biker church website is very out of date. My Free Ice Water website is very out of date. Here's the thing. They meet the needs. And one thing you'll find on ours is front page, easy to find, how to contact us, where we meet, whatever. I've been to church websites where I couldn't even tell you where they meet, what time to be there. Hard to figure out how to contact anybody. I think, if you're going to be a minister, if you're going to be a church, you got to be reachable. And that's just personal opinion, but, you do what you want. One of the ways in which ministers have demonstrated to me that they just truly don't understand social media is, and not just ministers, but Christians in general, how many Christian couples have a his and hers account? Like John and Mary Doe at Facebook.com. Now, more than one couple has said that their minister or they decided, well, I don't trust him on Facebook. He's probably out there flirting with other women, so we share an account. Or I don't trust her. Whatever. I'm not giving away a secret, people, when I say that anyone that knows anything about social media knows that you can have two accounts. If your name's John Doe and your wife doesn't trust you, you have a John and Mary Doe account, and then you create a Bob Smith account. And you just create another email address, one that you don't tell your wife about. Listen, I've counseled people that have done that exact same thing. My wife doesn't trust me on Facebook, and I'm not really trying to cheat on her, but sometimes I just don't want her to know who I'm talking to. People, it happens. But ministers don't seem to understand that how easy that is to do. So they tell people not to do that. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. They don't understand what they're talking about. Okay, here's a few social media types, the big ones. Facebook, of course, is number one. Have you ever heard a preacher talk about TV and use commercials or movies or TV shows as an illustration in their sermon? Yeah, me too. I do it. But here's the thing, in Facebook, what do you have? Well, you got games everywhere. You got pretty posters that somebody creates and then everyone shares it until you see it 46 times. And then it recycles again about a year away. And you have scams. Same old scams pop up all the time. During the Super Bowl, Microsoft and Walmart are going to combine to give away an entire brand new house, $500 million house, to one lucky winner during halftime. Well, it's not true, but you see it every day. Somebody's falling for it. How does Facebook pay for it? Well, a lot of ministers probably, I don't know. It's advertising. It's advertising. Now, you got to see that advertising on the side, people. If you don't know how to look at it, God bless you. I don't look at it much either. But there's a lot of it out there. And if you look at it, they're tracking everything you look at. If your computer goes someplace, they're tracking it. And the ads will show up there. So going back to a previous illustration, Mr. John Doe, if you've got a Mr. Bob Smith account too, you better have a whole separate computer, because otherwise you go some site with pornography on it, it's going to appear in your Facebook ads. Maybe not pornography. Facebook, I don't think, does that, but it's going to appear very suggestively. Twitter. Facebook. Everyone loves Facebook. Post pictures and videos and thoughts and whatever. But everyone can see what you post. Now, Twitter, even more people can see what you post. But Twitter is more of a place where you can track celebrities and such. But you can track anybody, and whatever they post, you see instantly. You know, it's kind of cool. LinkedIn is probably the biggest network social media for professional lives. If you are a engineer, it's a good place to be. If you deal with the public, it's a good place to be. Instagram. Man, Instagram is fantastic at posting pictures and videos. Take a picture, boom, post it, it's gone. Videos, boom, instantly. So easy. Much easier than YouTube or Facebook. Let me tell you that. Snapchat. This is one that, I don't know, I think it's for the young people. It isn't, but it's sure popular there. Here's the thing. Parents say, well, I don't see it on their Facebook account. I'm friends with them on Facebook. Listen, parents, if you aren't friends with them on Snapchat, you're in big trouble. In Snapchat, they can control who sees it, even amongst friends. They can share it with just a very few. You take a picture, a video, whatever, however it works. I don't do Snapchat, okay? But it's only up for 24 hours, it's gone. The old timers like me say, once something's on the internet, it's there forever. No. Snapchat, not true. Maybe somebody copies it and puts it out there, and then you're on there forever. But what you post isn't, not on Snapchat. Pinterest. Let me just say this. 80% of the users of Pinterest are women. And almost every single one of them buys products based on what they see on Pinterest. If you aren't aware of Pinterest, if you don't know how it works, shame on you. There are other niche type of networks. You might have one that's for mathematicians or whatever, and that's great. There's social media of all kinds. There is even social media based on languages or culture. Of course, there's satellite TV based on your language or culture, and some of them get so specified as Puerto Ricans from New York, Puerto Ricans from Chicago, Puerto Ricans from Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans from Miami or Florida or whatever. Same with any other culture. I pick Puerto Ricans because I have a bunch of friends that are Puerto Rican, so it works for me. Listen, social media is part of life today. And Christians, if you aren't there, shame on you. Ministers, if you aren't there, shame on you. Is it an evil place? It can be. If you aren't wise, I believe that Paul's told the early Christians to be wary of the devil because he prowls about like a lion, or he comes disguised as an angel. Christians, we have to be wise. But Jesus didn't say withdraw from the world. He said go into all the world. We can't lock ourselves up in monasteries. That approach is wrong. We can't just go to church on Sunday and then lock ourselves in the house the rest of the week. We need to be in the world, but not of the world. Do you hear what I'm saying? So, how do I conclude this, other than saying I'm done? Probably I should say it this way. If you are serious about your faith, and you are serious about sharing your faith like Jesus commanded in the Great Commission, then you need to use the modern approaches. And as I've said many times, tracts no longer work. Putting out a hellfire and damnation sermon on YouTube or TV doesn't work very well anymore. Sure, you might get one or two that way. Probably going to offend more. Whatever. I'm not a fan of it. Friendship evangelism is the only thing that works well in the modern world. And it's still a difficult thing. Social media is vital. Is vital if you want to have a ministry in the modern world today.